Well, we got plenty of SEC games this week, with only 2 SEC teams having bye weeks this week. Tennessee and Arkansas. And every SEC game that we have is SEC versus SEC. So all conference matchups, 12 of the 14 teams playing, like I mentioned, just Tennessee and Arkansas having the bye week. Everything you need to know with these copious notes and that. Let's go. Yeah, good morning, and that's Uncle Lou here. Yep, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, live for you on LouTube today. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also. And to SEC preview video up today. I do this video every single Tuesday during the college football season. I run through all the games involving SEC teams. I give a brief preview on the game, and then I give you a prediction against the spread. As usual, all the numbers I use in this video, the lines, the odds, the spreads, the over-unders, the totals, all that kind of stuff comes straight from the website over at BETNOW.EU. If you click the link in the description of this video, it'll take you over to BETNOW.EU and you can get yourself signed up for an account. They've given me a promo code this season to let you guys use that'll get you some free money when you first sign up. When you do sign up, enter the promo code Uncle Lou. That's one word, Uncle Lou, and they're going to give you a bonus on whatever you deposit. Make yourself some money. All right, here we go. We're going to run through these in chronological order. So we'll start with the early games on Saturday and go through the primetime games just like we always do. All right, up first, 12 o'clock over on ESPN. Alabama goes on the road to take on a really, really bad Mississippi State team. Alabama, of course, coming off its first loss of the season last week at home against LSU in a pretty good game. They got to turn around this week and go on the road and play Mississippi State. Mississippi State has been really, really bad this year. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games, and I think their only win over that 5-game stretch was against Arkansas, and that ain't much to brag about. They got blown out by Western Kentucky last week, cost a man his job. Sad. You hate to see it. If I was Alabama, I'm going to be honest. If I was Alabama, I would sit Tua in this game. There's 0 chance that Alabama loses this game. Mississippi State is just terrible. And we've had a lot of fun clowning Alabama over the last few days. And I mean, listen, Alabama fans, y'all hardly ever lose a game, okay? So when you do, you can expect to hear it from everybody, including me. I mean, you should know that by now, but I guess these Gumps just aren't used to losing or whatever. I don't know. They're not good losers. I can tell you that. They don't know how to take it. They get pretty irritated and they're pretty mad. You can take out some of your frustrations this week on the road at Mississippi State, but I would not play Tua in this game if I was Nick Saban. I would sit him this week. In fact, I'd sit him this week and next week when you play something called Western Carolina before you have to go on the road for your last game of the regular season in the Iron Bowl and play the Barn over on the Plains. Let's face it, Tua's shot as a Heisman is down the tubes. He's not winning the Heisman. You can't play that bad. I know his numbers overall were okay, but he had 2 critical turnovers in that game. He was clearly outplayed in that game by another Heisman candidate, LSU quarterback Joe Burrow. So Tua's Heisman chances are just completely gone. What Alabama needs to do is win the rest of their games in the regular season and hope enough teams around them lose so that they can backdoor and sneak into the playoffs like they did in 2017. The best chance of that happening, in my opinion, is to sit Tua this week, who you don't need against Mississippi State, right? Let one of these other quarterbacks get some more experience just in case Tua gets hurt again in, say, the Auburn game or whatever bowl game or maybe playoff game that you end up being in. Sit Tua this week, sit him next week. You probably should have sat him against LSU. Sit him, let him recuperate, bring him back out for the Barn. His Heisman chances are done at this point. Let's just be real. Yeah, greatest quarterback you've ever had, but he's not going to win the Heisman. It's just that simple. And he's not going to win a national title again, too, and also. But anyway, I would sit him. As far as this particular game goes, like I said, I don't think it matters whether Tua plays or not. 21 points against Mississippi State. Do people really expect Alabama to come out and play bad just because they lost last week against LSU? I expect the opposite. I mean, Alabama's back is against the wall. They can't afford to lose another game, and I don't think they will at Mississippi State, but they got to come out and start proving some points here. I think that starts this week on the road at Mississippi State. Give me the Gumps, Lato's 21. All right, this is an interesting game. Maybe. Florida on the road at Missouri. Missouri has absolutely destroyed Florida each of the last 2 seasons. I don't expect that to happen this time. This game comes on 12 o'clock over on CBS, and Florida is a 7-point road favorite in this one. Let's look at Missouri. Of course, they're coming off a loss to Georgia. They got shut out on the road in Athens. They started out 0-1 with a weird sort of unexplainable loss on the road to Wyoming. Then they reeled off 5 straight wins, and people started saying, okay, maybe, this is sort of the Missouri team we thought we were going to see this year. Well, since then, they've lost their last 3. So you start 0-1, you win 5 in a row. Now you're on a 3-game losing streak. All 3 of those games were SEC road games. So a sort of a weird quirk in scheduling there for Missouri. They had to play 3 SEC road games in a row. That's never easy to do. And Missouri found a way to lose all 3 of them. They haven't played a home game. Missouri hasn't since October 12th. So it'll be a month gone by the time this game kicks off, which is in Missouri. Will it help that this game is at home for Missouri? Maybe. Is it enough to help Missouri win this game? No. They're just really bad. During that 3-game stretch, they lost to Georgia, which... it's not embarrassing to lose to Georgia. Georgia's a pretty good team, but you lost to Vandy and you lost to Kentucky. Those are 2 of the worst teams in the SEC East and really 2 of the worst 4 or 5 teams in the SEC overall. You lost to both of them. Missouri just has not looked good. Will Kelly Bryant be back in this game? I would think that he would. Sort of the word going around last week heading into the Georgia game was that he was pretty close, sort of a 50-50 deal. Obviously, they decided to hold him out of that game. I talked about my thoughts about that last week leading up to the Georgia-Missouri game. I don't blame Missouri for not playing him last week. There was no benefit to Kelly Bryant and him playing against Georgia. Will he play this week? Maybe. Kelly Bryant is looking to get into the NFL. That's really his personal goal for this year. He transferred out of Clemson where he lost his starting job. He wanted to land somewhere where he could try to develop and show off his arm to the NFL in hopes of getting drafted. He's running out of chances and opportunities to do that. Having a good game against a Florida team that has a pretty good defense, especially on the back end and the secondary, maybe would go a long way towards doing that. So I think if there's any way that Kelly Bryant can play in this game, I think he will. We'll see. It obviously would help Missouri if he could play in this game. Florida, on the other hand, no surprise here. But here we are, another season of Dan Mullen, another season where he's not going to win the division, another season where he has a losing record against ranked teams. What is he, 1-2 against ranked teams? Lucky for Dan Mullen in Florida, Missouri's not ranked, but who'd they beat? Auburn, but then they lost to LSU and Georgia, so 1-2 against ranked teams. Again, I mean, is there a head coach that's been around for 10 years with a worse record against ranked teams or top 10 teams? Dan Mullen? No, there's not. But Florida will win this one. I know they've gotten blown out the last 2 years. Maybe that's some extra motivation for Florida. Technically, there's still a small chance that Florida could win the SEC East. They would have to win this game, and Georgia would have to lose to Auburn and Texas A&M, and then Florida could still win the East. So this game comes on at noon before Georgia plays Auburn, which is at 3:30 on this same day. So, technically when this game starts and ends, Florida will still have a shot at the East. Georgia can clinch the East with a win at Auburn this weekend. We'll see if that happens, and we'll talk about that game in a minute. But I expect Florida to come out and play really well. They destroyed Vanderbilt last week, 56-0. So it doesn't look like they're having any hangover or ill effects from the beatdown they took at the hands of my Georgia Bulldogs. I'm going to take Florida on the road here and lay those 7 points. All right, Georgia at Auburn, 3:30. This is the CBS game of the week this week. Georgia comes into this one as a 3-point road favorite. Am I surprised they're a favorite? Not really. I think most people think Georgia has been the better team so far this season. Obviously, Georgia had that one really, really unexplainable, terrible performance about a month ago at home against South Carolina. Outside of that game, though, Georgia has been fairly impressive for the majority of the year. The Kentucky game was a little strange, too. It was pouring in that game. I'm not making excuses. It was pouring in other places that day, too, and quarterbacks played great, but it just sort of is what it is. So those 2 weeks notwithstanding, Georgia has looked, I think, better than Auburn most of the year. Everyone's big concern about this game, or at least Georgia fans, I think, big concern about this game is the SEC West road game aspect of this game here. Kirby is sort of famously or infamously winless on the road against the SEC West since taking over at Georgia back in 2016. Lost at Ole Miss in 16, lost at Auburn in 17, lost at LSU in 18, right? So this is his fourth chance. He's 0-3 against the SEC West in true road games. We'll see if he can snap that streak and get a win here on the road at Auburn. Like I said, Georgia can clinch the SEC East with a win here. What's the barn look like? No offense. I've been talking about this all year. Bo Nix is not a good quarterback. Is it possible he becomes good at some point down the road? Anything's possible. Tennessee might make a bowl game this year. So, yeah, anything is possible. Georgia has owned and dominated Auburn in recent memory. We've beat them 5 out of the last 6. We are 11-3 against them since 2006. And despite the fact that we lost at Auburn in 2017, the last time we played them on the road, Georgia is 4-3 at Auburn over the last 14 or 15 years. Over the last 7 trips to Jordan-Hare Stadium, they have a winning record at 4-3. Auburn is a pretty good team. Defensively up front, especially, it's no surprise, Derek Brown and company, one of the best defensive lines in America. Georgia's going to have to throw the ball in this game, I think, in order to win. It's going to be sort of the same recipe, I think, in order for Georgia to be successful that they tried in against Florida. Georgia will run the ball, or at least they will attempt to. That's just who they are. As much as it frustrates us as Georgia fans, we're going to see a whole bunch of runs up the middle here. That's just what we're going to see. That's just what Georgia does. They run, and then they hope to hit you with a play-action pass or something like that. Now, we'll see if they go to a sort of more of a throw on first down mentality like they did against Florida. They were sort of forced into that because they had some issues running the ball. If that's the case against Auburn, I expect to see the same type of thing. Jake Fromm needs to go out and win this game, period. A third-year starting quarterback, he needs to go out and win this game. He needs to play against Auburn this Saturday like he played against Florida 2 weeks ago. If he does that, Georgia will win the game. I have no doubt at all. If he struggles like he has in several big games over his career, at Auburn in 17, at LSU in 18, the Sugar Bowl, second halves against Alabama, those sorts of things, Auburn will have a pretty good chance to win this game. I think it'll be fairly low scoring. There's not much about Auburn's offense that really worries or scares me. Georgia's defense has been absolutely lights out all year long. Top 5 in almost every single defensive category known to man, except for sacks and turnovers. Those are the 2 issues I'd like to see Georgia improve on. Georgia, I believe, is 12th in the SEC in sacks. I think they're around 40th or 45th in the nation in sacks. And then in turnovers, Georgia's like 110th turnovers. Just haven't created a whole bunch of turnovers. We'll see if they can flip that around here on the road at Auburn. There's nothing about Auburn's offense that worries me, though, especially when I look at the defense that Georgia's putting on the field. I don't think Bo Nix is ready for what he's going to see this Saturday. Now, Auburn does have some speedster-type guys that if they're able to get them the ball in space with some room to run, whether that be wide receiver screens or hitch passes or these quick slants that all these teams like to throw now, that could be an issue. We've seen Georgia get hurt a few times in a few games with some of these quick slants over the middle. Florida did it over and over again to Freddie Swain, I think his name is, in the second half. So we'll see. I think that'll be the recipe for Auburn. Their ability to run the ball doesn't really worry me. It's just some of those more speedy guys they have maybe getting the ball in space. Now, offensively, when Georgia has the ball, the offensive line has got to keep Fromm protected. I have 100% confidence in our offensive line to do that. I think our offensive line has underperformed at times this year in run blocking, but pass blocking has been pretty good all year long. I think we've only given up, I think it's 4 sacks we've given up all year. 3 of those came in the South Carolina game, which, again, any possible thing that could have gone wrong for Georgia in that South Carolina game did. 4 turnovers, 3 sacks. The best field goal kicker in the history of mankind, Hot Rod Blankenship, missed 2 field goals. He's only missed 3, I think, all season. 2 came in that game. Either one, make either one of those, and Georgia wins the game. It's just really weird. But in any case, last year, because he's a Georgia fan. Of course, he picked Georgia to win. Last year, I picked Georgia to lose on the road at LSU, dating all the way back to the offseason before last season. So 2 summers ago now. I just had a feeling. I said, Georgia's going to go to LSU and lose. The exact opposite this year. I've just had a feeling since before the season even started that Georgia was going to go on the road and reverse that trend this year with a win at Auburn. I still feel that way. Do I think Auburn is a terrible team? No. I think they're probably a legitimate top 15 to top 20 team. I'm not sure they're much better than that, but I do think they're a legitimate top 15 to top 20 team. They've got 2 losses being to Florida and LSU, 2 pretty good teams. I think they're going to lose 2 more to Georgia and Alabama, 2 pretty good teams. Finish the season at 8-4 with all 4 of the losses coming to pretty good teams. Now, that doesn't make Auburn fan happy, but I think it just sort of is what it is. I don't think Gus is going anywhere. Some rumors about him to Arkansas because, of course, he's from there. He's an average PE coach, and he was an average PE coach in the state of Arkansas. I don't think anybody would be surprised to see him go back there, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think the barn's stuck with this guy, which is great for me and bad for the Barner. Anyway, I'm going to take Georgia and lay to 3 points on the road at Auburn. All right, Kentucky at Vandy. This one comes on 3:30 over on the SEC Network. Kentucky's a 9-point favorite on the road at Vandy. 2 really bad teams here. Kentucky is 4-5. Vandy is 2-7. Unreal. Kentucky started out 2-0. Since then, they're 2-5. So they come into this game at the 4-5. Vandy's just 2-7. Somehow they beat Missouri, or they would be 1-8. I don't know how they beat Missouri, but they did. But they're 2-7. They're just a terrible team. Anything any positives or momentum or anything that Derek Mason had going at Vanderbilt, I think has been flushed down the toilet this year. 2-7 is just a horrible record, no matter the circumstances, no matter what's going on, no matter what league or division or conference you play in. It's been a disappointing year for Vandy. Did anyone expect them to come out and win 9, 10, or 11 games? No, of course not. But I don't care who you are. When you're 2-7 and you might not win another game, I mean, can you keep it going against Tennessee at the end of the year? I don't know. We'll see, but it's not looking good for Vandy. Kentucky comes in as a 9-point favorite. I'm going to go with Vandy here to keep it within the 9, but I probably wouldn't play this game. Kentucky's not a good team either, in my opinion. Quarterback situations out the yin-yang with Kentucky to the point where they're playing wide receivers over there with the Lynn Bowden. Vandy's a terrible team coming off a 56-0 beatdown at the hands of Florida. I just don't know if either one of these teams is good enough to lay 9 points, including Kentucky. So I'm going to take the home team here, Vandy, and those 9 points, although I do think Kentucky will win. All right, what about LSU on the road at Ole Miss? If you're looking for a big upset in the SEC this week, this might be the only opportunity, and I just don't see it happening. I'll just tell you that right up front. LSU comes into this one as a 21.5-point favorite, going on the road to take on a 4-6 Ole Miss team that again, one of these teams that's been underwhelming this year and disappointing. They've lost 3 of their last 4, and their only win during that 4-game stretch was against New Mexico State, which is, aren't they 0-9? They're just a terrible team. LSU coming off a big emotional win on the road at Alabama. Will there be a letdown? Yes, I think there will be a little bit of a letdown. Not to the point of losing this game to Ole Miss, though. In fact, I don't even think it'll be a letdown to the point where they can't win by 21 points. It's 21.5, just over that 3-touchdown mark. I'm going to take Ole Miss here in the 21.5. I could see LSU winning this game 42-21, in which case Ole Miss would be a winner on the points there. It's just hard for me to imagine that LSU can get a win that's that meaningful, that important in a game that they haven't won in a long time, and immediately just put it behind them. I do think there will be some lingering effect. Maybe Ole Miss may jump out to a lead here, not a huge lead, but couldn't you see Ole Miss maybe at the end of the first quarter winning this game? 7-3 or something like that. I could see that happening. Again, I'm not knocking LSU. This happens to a lot of teams when they get a big win. I fully expect LSU to rebound and win this game, but I can't lay the 21.5 this week. Give me the home team, Ole Miss, and all those points. All right, and last up, we have South Carolina on the road at Texas A&M, and Texas A&M is a 10.5-point home favorite in this one. South Carolina has never beaten Texas A&M since Texas A&M joined the SEC back 7-8 years ago, whenever it was when we had conference expansion and brought Texas A&M and Missouri in. South Carolina is terrible. They are in a really bad spot. Losing to App State last week, they're sitting at 4-6. That's 10 games. You only play 12 games. That means they'd have to win their last 2 games just to get bowl eligible. That would involve a win on the road this week at Texas A&M and then a win in 2 weeks at home against Clemson. So you're 4-6 right now. That tells me you're finishing 4-8. No, you're not firing Will Muschamp. Y'all are not getting rid of Will Muschamp. Some of you want him gone. It's not happening. This is his 4th year. In his first 3 years, he won more games than any other South Carolina coach in their first 3 years in your program's history. He had one of the toughest schedules in America this year. He had to play Georgia. He had to play Clemson coming up. He had to play Alabama. No one expected you to win any of those games, and you're not. Now you got to go on the road and play a Texas A&M team that you haven't been able to beat, even when you've had pretty good teams, which is not the case this year. You're going to get blown out here on the road at Texas A&M. This might be Texas A&M's last chance to win a game, too. It's their last home game. Texas A&M finishes up the season after this home game against South Carolina with back-to-back road games at Georgia and at LSU. So Texas A&M is 6-3. They need this win to get to 7 wins. That's probably where they'll finish, in my opinion. I can't imagine them winning on the road at Georgia or LSU. I do think they'll win this week, though. Their losses are to Clemson, Bama, and the Barn. So it's not like, I mean, Texas A&M is 6-3, but it's not like they're a terrible team or have lost to bad teams. They're 6-3 with losses to Clemson, Alabama, and Auburn. So all 3 of their losses have come to top 15 teams. South Carolina's not a top 15 team, though. Might be one of the 15 worst teams. I don't know. They've lost 3 of their last 4, including, like I mentioned, App State. I think Texas A&M wins big in this one. South Carolina has thrown the towel in. That was obvious, I think, to anybody that watched the App State game last week. Give me the Aggies at home. Lay those 10.5. All right, that's going to be it for this week's SEC preview. Already up to, is this week 12? Jesus. Week 12. Season is almost over already. Thanksgiving will be here soon. Unreal. If you guys want to see some super fans in a video tomorrow, Wednesday, give this video a thumbs up. Let's see if we can get to 250. 250 thumbs up on this video, and we will see some super fans in tomorrow's video. All right, I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you tune in tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern for the live call-in show. We do it every Tuesday and Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern and every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. All right, have a great morning.